Hello and welcome. We are Tools in the Shed, powered by CarsGuide, ready to rip into car stuff that has caught our eye this week. I'm James, and with me are Matt, who has yet again been getting his tradie on with a ute comparison.
Yes.
As well as our editor, Mal, who's got a bone to pick with a certain used supercar in our Blowing a Gasket segment.
Big things have been happening.
And we'll check in with the enigmatic man-child we all know as Elon in this week's Muskwatch. So stay with us. But first, Matt.
Yeah.
You're back in the ute segment.
Oh, no.
It's as if you've never left. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, so this week we decided to pitch a couple of utes against one another. You might remember when the Amarok launched way back in 2011, I think it was, it had only a 2-litre bi-turbo 4-cylinder diesel engine. And everyone else in the segment sort of pointed and laughed, you know, you've got a smaller one than us.
Yeah.
Because pretty much the only other thing that came in 2 litres was milk and juice at that point.
Exactly.
Right.
That was the jolly jape on the work site, right? Yeah, the only thing that comes in 2 litres, mate. Juice and milk.
Jolliest
What do you got an
japes.
Amarok for? Yeah.
So, but now the Amarok, as we all know, has a 3-litre V6 turbo diesel engine, which is the most powerful and the most torquiest diesel you can get in the segment at the moment, with up to 200 kilowatts and 580 newton meters, which is a lot.
That's a
What's
lot
the
of
0 to
newton
100
meters.
claim on it? It's pretty...
It's like 7 seconds or something, 7 point something seconds. So it's like not far behind what hot hatches were 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But we also decided to put in the new Ford Ranger Wildtrak, which has a bi-turbo engine.
Yes.
So it now comes as an option with a 2-litre twin turbo.
Only a 2 litre.
2-litre twin turbo 4-cylinder diesel engine.
And you can still get the 3.2.
You can at less cost.
Yep.
But
It makes less power.
makes
torque.
less power and torque. So the new 2-litre comes with 157 kilowatts, 10 kilowatts more than the 3.2, and 500 newton meters,
Right.
which is 30 newton meters more than the 3.2.
And what's its relationship with the engine in the Ranger Raptor?
Same.
Same engine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same transmission?
Yep. 10-speed automatic.
All right. So basically, you're looking at the same drivetrain without all your Raptor macho
Yeah.
finery around the outside.
And the
Okay.
extra weight that the Raptor brings with it, with all that extra stuff. But also the fact that the Raptor has been a bit criticised for that drivetrain because it doesn't feel like it's up to the task necessarily.
Yeah.
Of its Ford Performance branding.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but also the Wildtrak retains the 3.5 tonne towing capacity and the
Yes.
full payload.
Yes.
Where the Raptor doesn't.
Yes. So
Utes for utes purposes.
and that's part of the
it's more a
reason
ute.
that the Wildtrak made the cut for this test is because it's the better fit and it's the one that people search for more generally.
Exactly.
This is the one that people buy. They're not necessarily going out to buy a Raptor. They might get to the showroom and go, "That's cool," and then go, "No, I'll just get the Wildtrak."
Yep. So rather than all that Raptor pretty boy stuff,
Yep.
we've gone hardcore.
Yep.
And replicated the worksite stuff.
Yep.
Both vehicles were sandbagging because we put sandbags in the back of both of them.
We did.
All that kind of action. Yeah?
Yes. So we loaded them up with 500 kilos as an indicative weight of what you might expect a typical tradie or even just a regular, not so much tradie, more of a
Weekend
social
warrior.
owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, a weekend warrior, someone who's going to the tip or whatever, or
Yep.
going to the landscaping
Camping.
Yep.
shop. So the test was the 500 kilos in the tray. We did the same loop that we did with our bigger comparison test where we had the Ranger, the Hilux and the X-Class. And so that gave us a good replication of where each of them stand.
Yep.
The Amarok was better with the load. There's no doubt about that. It was better without the load as well in terms of ride comfort. But the Ranger's steering is exceptional because it's so light at low speeds. It makes it really easy to maneuver. It can also park itself with this new tech pack that they've included as standard. It's also taking the game to the new level with the safety stuff that you get in the Ranger Wildtrak. It's like high-speed AEB, radar cruise control. You've got pedestrian detection, forward collision warning, lane keeping assist, all this stuff that the Amarok doesn't get any of it.
That.
Yeah.
Any of it.
So
And the
competitive,
Amarok
though, isn't
also
it?
still lacks rear airbags.
Yes, no rear airbags, but it still carries a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, but that's only for the 4-cylinder versions. It doesn't apply to V6s if you read the fine print.
So if you're wondering why we put these two head-to-head, there's a lot more to it than meets the eyes.
Well, that's right. And the other reason being that we did a 3-vehicle comparo where the Ranger came out on top. Yep. Lots of feedback from our readers and viewers saying, what about Amarok?
Yep.
So this is partially in response to that feedback, yeah?
Yeah, it is. And, we want to give our readers what they want to see, and we wanted to do the test as well. It worked out really well. We got the vehicles at the same time. We ran this test. Obviously, there was some things that we couldn't do, like towing, because the Amarok didn't come with a tow bar, where the Ranger Wildtrak comes with a tow bar as standard.
Sure, but I've mentioned before, if you can't set up a towing fixture with a piece of 2x4 and some duct tape and probably a coat hanger, you can't call yourself Australian.
All right, well, we didn't do that.
You didn't do that.
In the interests of...
Not good enough.
Disclaimer.
Solved. Yeah.
But so we came away from the test thinking to ourselves, the Amarok is $71,990 before on-road costs. That's a lot of money. And it feels maybe a little bit posh compared to the Wildtrak, but it lacks so much stuff for that money, where you can get the Wildtrak with the bi-turbo engine at $63,000 or so. It's $8,000 cheaper before on-road costs.
And just to confirm, the 6-cylinder engine in the Ford is not an option anymore. You can get that engine, or you can't?
No, there's no 6. It's a 5-cylinder.
Beg your pardon. The 3.2.
3.2
is still available. Okay,
at a cheaper price.
Gotcha.
So if you don't want to go with the bi-turbo engine, you think things might go more wrong more readily, which potentially they could, then the 3.2 could be the better bet for you. I mean, the new engine is quieter and more refined, and it has the 10-speed automatic rather than a 6-speed. And that 10-speed does do a fairly good job of harnessing the torque of that engine. Also, it's worth noting that this is the most torque we've seen from a 2-litre twin-turbo diesel in the ute segment, because the Amarok only ever got to 420 or 450 Newton meters. They never went to 500, but maybe there's something to do with a bit more of a German engineering focus on longevity.
Yeah, right.
There.
Yes.
But it was that ZF 8-speed, which
but
it's up a lot of torque out of Bentley Bentegas and stuff.
It does.
It's a tremendous amount of pulling power, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now that is just phenomenal.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, both of them, no matter, whether it's the Amarok or the Ranger, they both feel pretty quick. When you put your foot down, you're not missing anything.
And it is pretty, utes aren't performance cars and never will be, but God, it's exciting that they're getting better and better and better.
Yeah, and they're becoming less truck-like and more refined and more comfortable.
Yet still usable as utes.
Because it all just screams competition, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's such a hotly contested part of the market that... all this new equipment that's gone into the Ford is just driven by competition.
And Australians are driving a lot of it too, because we love them more than anyone.
Well,
private buyers of utes.
We're over the odds in terms of Amarok consumption in Australia. Compared to the rest of the world, we fight pretty hard for our share of the Amarok, and that does help Volkswagen go back and argue a case for what we want in Australia. It hasn't really heralded any benefit.
Rear airbags.
So rear airbags and safety stuff would be really advantageous for that vehicle, but we haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
Maybe the next generation, and the interesting thing about the next generation of these two utes is that they could be the same ute but with different bodies. So there's talk that Volkswagen and Ford will team up on this commercial vehicle strategy, and good luck to anyone else in that segment, because if they can get all the safety stuff and have good engines and have the dynamics and the comfort of a Volkswagen with the ability and the hard-wearingness of a Ford, geez, it's going to be a good ute.
Yeah, look out Hilux.
Yeah.
It'd be a real strong contender.
Yeah,
betcha. So it sounds like we're holding the comparo during the podcast here, but what aren't we going to tell you today, Matt?
We're not going to tell you the results, so you'll have to wait for the written review.
We've got the written review, we've got a video, it's all going to be up in no time, so people should keep their eyes and ears open for that.
Yep, the video was not shot professionally this time around. We did something fun with it. Hopefully it works. Hopefully you forgive us if it looks rubbish.
In the spirit of always trying new things.
Yeah.
Mr. Spielberg was on leave that day.
All right. Well, look, speaking of trying new things, here's a word from our sponsor.
Life's a journey, and for over a century, Winton's been helping Australians enjoy the ride. Behind the wheel of a Winton, you're comfortably in control of the most efficient, enjoyable, and brilliantly engineered car in the world. In fact, from class-leading luxury and performance cars to light trucks, heavy haulers and agricultural equipment, all supported by our no-haggle lifetime warranty and industry-leading service, Winton covers all the bases. Winton, Australian with a world of difference.
As always, that begs the question, where is Frosty? Frosty Chops from Winton Motor Company. He's a great friend of the show. Frosty's hoping to bring the 2019 World Taxidermy and Fish Carving Championships to Winton, Victoria.
What?
Yeah, but you've heard it here first. It's scheduled for Springfield, Missouri in April, but Frosty sees it as a perfect fit for Winton, the Winton brand, and he's determined to bring it here.
If anyone can grease the palms to make that happen,
and
it's
of course, Frosty is a keen taxidermist. People seeing this on YouTube, there's an image here. We've got an example of his work. His pet lion, Jeffrey, getting to grips with an unfortunate zebra. God, he loved that lion. It was fantastic. But Jeffrey lives on in Frosty's work. It's quite phenomenal.
I feel for the zebra.
Anyway, Mal, moving on.
Right.
It's time to blow a gasket. And the thing that's got under your skin...
Well, it's not my skin. It seems like
Everyone's
skin.
Far away.
Except for maybe you, James, but we're about to talk about that.
Far away.
This week, we have finally seen the first sighting of the Ford Mustang Supercar to enter the Supercars Championship in 2019. Supercars showed us our first sighting during the first homologation test at Queensland Raceway.
Still in camo.
Still in camouflage. Now, it's raised a few eyebrows because previously when they've stretched production models over the Control Supercar chassis, they've still managed to look like the road car. Falcon and Commodore have been stretched for years. Altima, the E63s of a few years ago, but also the Volvo S40 still look like a Volvo S40. This Mustang, from the angles they've given us, wearing camo, looks like it's been a bit distorted to fit over, a four-door origined control chassis.
Yeah.
It has been, likened to the proportions of an Aussie race car, which is those tiny little motorbike engine ones.
Yeah.
But
Mal, you've got some examples where the Mustang has been fettled for motor racing.
Yep.
And the proportions are all great, even though the car is probably way broader, a little bit longer, all that kind of stuff. Fill us in on that.
And look, I have full respect for the importance of parity with the Supercars formula and the control chassis, etc., etc., etc. But unfortunately, two other particular current generation Mustang races have come before this and look pretty awesome. Chiefly the GT4 Mustang, but also the Mark Racer, the endurance space frame chassis racer that appeared earlier this year and ran in the Bathurst 12 Hour. Looks fantastic.
It does. And for viewers on YouTube, we've got an image of that car that you'll be seeing now, and Mal's absolutely right.
Now, when I first saw this vehicle pop up online, last weekend I went on a humpback whale watching tour. And my God, it was almost identical. There's this weird high roof and this massive tail, and it's almost like a humpback. I said on Twitter, I tweeted at Scott McLaughlin, who was singing the praises of this new Mustang, and I said, yeah, but how good would it be if it looked like a Mustang?
Oh, did you get a response?
I got lots of responses.
Anything from
agreeing
Scott?
With you?
Nothing from Scott, but okay. I did get an angry email from Damien Smyre at Ford. Getting me in trouble. He said I'm banned from Mustang driving from all Mustangs in the future. I'm not really.
I've got to say, I think
he's a funny guy.
On the upside, the fact is that it's arrived because it's just kind of weird that we're still driving Falcons at the end of the last championship.
Dumb.
And why it matters is that we are so excited about having a new body style. You can no longer buy an Altima in showrooms. You can no longer buy a Falcon by a long shot. Mm-hmm. And the Mercedes, the AMG E63's disappeared. The Volvo's disappeared.
Yeah.
We've got the ZB Commodore.
Jesus, every
on the
chance
track.
it could disappear too.
Yeah.
That's another podcast.
But for me, it's like the first glimpse of Supercars has been in a bit of a malaise, They've really been struggling to find their feet and what is this formula going to look like in future?
Yep.
The Mustang's arrival is the first physical sign
Yep.
of change.
And will hopefully pave the way for a Camaro to appear as well, now that we've got Camaro in showrooms. But we're really excited about it. Seems right, but God, I hope it actually looks better than it did in those photos.
Make it look better.
And so the first photos they've sent us have been disguised, and also they seem to be taken intentionally amateurishly, like to look like spy photos. Hopefully it's an accidental disservice.
Well, I suppose you'd also like to give the benefit of the doubt and say this is a first crack at it. You know, it doesn't take as much as you'd think to make a body panel and a body kit, you know. So maybe this is version 1. You never know whether it might improve over time.
And also, sometimes we've seen camouflage bodywork include some stuff that doesn't actually exist on the production vehicle. So.
And you can see in some of the photos where they've taped in elements of the front bumper. So it is phase 1 of the homologation process.
Yeah, you never
where
know.
they make sure that it matches the downforce, etc.
But geez, we all hope that it looks a little bit better than that, right?
But I'll be surprised if it distorts the proportions back in the direction of the production.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I'm pleased it's here. I for one, for what it's worth, I've liked Australian, sedan car racing, be it touring cars, right from back in the day. I've been a big fan of it. But supercars I found hard to bond with over the recent years because it was just so all over the place. The arrival of this car's got me looking twice, 3 times. Like, I really want to have a look and see it on the grid next year.
What else?
I think it's an exciting development.
What else is coming? Do we know of any other cars that are being added? Or
look, everyone's always saying, we're talking to manufacturers, but not in the immediate future.
No.
Right.
So it'll be ZB Commodore, which again seems a little bit of a misalignment, but it's there.
And the Walkinshaw team is keen to go Camaro, and they've started assessing it for that purpose, because they're no longer the Holden factory team, which is 888.
Yeah,
and they're committed to the ZB for the time being.
Yeah,
we're not getting a V6 turbo anymore. That's interesting, but. Australian motorsport needs supercars to succeed.
I think so.
And we love Australian motorsport, and we want it to succeed.
It'll be interesting. I see it as a positive development, but just if it could look a little better, that'd be nice. So, we are, of course, in the garage.
Yes.
And just, behind us in the other part of the shed are the cars that we've been driving this week. And first up, taking a large piece of real estate within that garage, Mal, is the Ram 1500. You've steered that car.
Yep, the 1500 Laramie.
Fill us in on your impressions.
So
top line.
Matt drove the 1500 at its launch a couple of months ago. This is the petrol, slightly less industrial version of the 2500 diesel that has been here for a few years, but converted locally by ASV to right-hand drive. I drove it last night, and I've really put it through its paces. I wound up at the Star Casino to see a concert, but got railroaded into the underground car park.
Mel doesn't like to talk about his gambling habit. And if you do have a problem with gambling,
I was there to see Dionne Warwick, if you must know.
Sorry?
I was there to see Dionne Warwick, if you must know.
Yeah.
A fact I'm proud of. Anyway, however, I got stuck in the underground car park in a Ram during a concert. Give it a go, people.
Actually stuck?
No.
Oh.
So it's
figuratively.
Okay. The struggle was to try and fit it into a conventional car parking space, or just to navigate your way around the car park?
You can't do it sort of without consideration, but it is possible.
So to give everyone an idea, it's about 5.8 metres long, which is about half a metre longer than most of the utes in the segment.
Yeah, and a lot longer than a Land Cruiser, a lot longer than a Statesman.
It's about 10 times longer than a normal hatchback.
Yeah, longer than a 7 Series. It is, I believe. Yeah,
it
definitely.
Is, easily.
But also really wide.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is possible, but you've got to be on your toes. Anyway, you can live with it, you can park it. And it makes you feel pretty cool.
Yeah.
This one's black.
Just a shame that I thought this when I went to the launch, just a shame that we're getting the old version, not the brand new Ram 1500. Yeah. That will come eventually. Probably in 2021, maybe.
Yeah, but to clarify, Ram in the States is still offering this car.
They're offering both.
It's a 2-stream line, isn't it? So this is your entry point, and then the newer car becomes a more premium offering.
And the reviews of that newer car have been exceptional. It's been really well received, and it's I've seen quite a few comparisons where it's come out on top ahead of the F Series and the Silverado.
So it is amazing. sampling these things in person, how much work goes into these American utes these days, because they're the bread and butter of America.
Yeah.
They've got everything you can think of, and this is at least a 10-year-old design. But the gear selector's on the dash, and it's quite useful. It's a lot better than it was in the Grand Cherokee from memory.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say whether it's knowing that it's a 10-year-old design or whether it actually is the case, but it looks old-fashioned. It looks like an older vehicle, yeah?
I look at it and go, Mr. Plow, every time. It's, that episode of The Simpsons is about 15 years old. Mr. Plow.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Okay.
And it is significantly more refined than the 2500, so more comfortable to live with.
It is, definitely.
I'm not sure if I'd want to be fueling that V8, that big Hemi V8, which...
Wow, it'd be traumatic, wouldn't it?
windscreen
Even just
sticker is
driving into the
12.2.
garage.
I haven't measured it scientifically, but it feels a little ambitious for the real world.
Yeah, 12.2 is not a achievable claim.
Certainly not sitting in the Star car park for 40 minutes idling.
No.
Well, I mean, you'd be intimidated just driving into the forecourt of a petrol station, wouldn't you? It'd be a traumatic, nerve-wracking experience.
Depends on your personality.
A, would it?
Some people
would it fit? And B, I'm going to have to fill this sucker up.
I guess
and it's
the
not gonna be
argument
cheap.
is, though, if you're spending $100,000 plus on something like that, petrol price isn't that much of a worry to you.
And bottom line, I am so glad we have the option of buying this car with a full warranty, factory converted.
Yeah.
All right.
Go variety in Australia.
Yeah.
Matt, a different part of the automotive spectrum altogether.
Yep.
You have been driving an Audi A4 of a
Yes.
particular type.
Yeah, it's the black edition, because we haven't seen enough black editions of vehicles over this year.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's about the 20th black edition.
Commodore's got a black edition at the moment, I believe.
Holden is
VXR.
big on the black edition. Obviously, Mercedes AMG is big on your black
Yeah.
edition. Audi has the
It
black
means something
edition.
very different with AMG.
It does, but it's an oft-used phrase. What does it mean in this context?
In this context, you spend $2,500 more and you get $7,000 worth of equipment.
Which is always good.
It makes a lot of sense. It's got lots of aesthetic appeal. It sits on 19-inch wheels instead of 18s. It's got lowered suspension. You get metallic paint included at no cost. There's other things inside, like it gets sportier seats and a different fabric and some different trim elements and ambient lighting and that sort of stuff. Generally, feels and looks pretty special. For the version I had, you can get it in two versions. There's the 2-litre Quattro version, which is more expensive, which has more power and more torque from its 2-litre engine, or the lower spec front-wheel drive version, which is the one I had, which does have some issues with it. I didn't love the drivetrain.
Right.
I think that the Quattro drivetrain is a lot more convincing.
Is the transmission different between the two?
It's 7-speed dual clutch.
In
but
both?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
but calibrated.
Differently, obviously, to apportion the...
But the features, the same. So if you got into one
Pretty
and the
much.
other, it'd feel pretty much the same.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it is the base 2-litre, but
Yeah.
but really that base 2-litre's got a fair bit of poke these days.
Yeah, 140 kilowatts and 320 newton meters of torque. Which
Gone
is
are the days of, the base model, mid-size, premium European, like the 318i that had 85 kilowatts forever and was sluggish as hell.
But there is a lower spec A4 below that, which is 110 kilowatts and 250 newton meters. And to be honest with you, that's where I'd be spending my money if I was getting an A4, because it's front-wheel drive, but it's not trying to be anything but that.
Yeah.
Where this one sort of feels like it is trying to be a little bit sportier than it is.
The 110, is it still a 2-litre? I can't remember.
No, 1.4.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the A4 has been around nearly 4 years now, and it's such a quiet achiever. It's it's got some really nice elements to it, but so many people in that segment gravitate to the 3 Series or the C-Class that it really just falls by the wayside.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit disappointing because you can get some really good stuff in there. I mean, an A4 Avant, the wagon version, I think is one of the prettiest German cars
And
on
they
the market.
age well. There's
Yeah.
deliberate restraint to their styling.
Yep.
That kind of may not look as wow when you first get to the showroom. Sorry, everyone at home. But 5 years on, you're still going,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
it's still stylish.
Yeah.
And the interior, all right, so there are some bits of the interior that really, really annoyed me. So it's got Apple CarPlay. Great. That's a thumbs up. But it's not a touchscreen. So you have to use a rotary dial to go
to navigate
through-
your way around CarPlay.
Yeah.
Is it a touchscreen in regular MMI?
No.
Not at all. So they've done the Mercedes.
So yeah, it's a regular screen
Right.
but with a rotary dial, which is really annoying.
I wouldn't mind betting they've done that intentionally to stop you
doing that.
distracting.
What,
and-
just
But
Matt?
you know what's
They've gone, Matt's booked it, right?
Yeah.
We know what he's like on those
Set it up
screens.
this way.
But you know what's more annoying than, or more distracting
Yeah.
than touching a screen is playing with a rotary dial,
Sure.
watching the screen to see where the cursor moves to,
Yeah.
and then pressing the button.
That's not great.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Not great for
Th-
a
There's
safety
certainly
point of
no 100% correct answer with that approach, I think.
Definitely not.
But there is intent behind it.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating when you're used to a touchscreen, though. I'll get that.
Exactly. Now, James,
Oh,
you've been driving something pretty
I've had
cool
a week
too.
of smugness because I've been driving
You
all
should
this
feel how smug it is
all
in this
this
room.
all this talk about engine stuff. I've been driving a car without an engine.
Oh.
It has a motor, and it's the Renault Zoe, which is the
I've got a friend called Zoe.
compact
So do
little Renault, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I've been
Yeah.
enjoying the car thoroughly. It's built on the same platform as the Clio, and it's roughly the same proportions, just a little more compact. And it's the biggest selling electric car in Europe. It's just that there are a lot of incentives over there.
Yeah.
Here, it's roughly the version I've been driving, the Intens, which is the top out of 2 levels, is near enough to $50,000
Ooh.
before your on-road costs. So
And it's the size of a Mazda 2, but
Mazda
with 3
2,
doors.
That's right. So
Yep.
you've really got to be committed to saving the planet if you want to buy this car. But what I would say is, in terms of electric cars, that's near the entry level. You know, you're paying another $20,000 to get to a BMW i3. So if you want to go electric, this is sort of the opening of the door into that whole category. I've found it amazing just watching the graphics. You talk about being distracted. There's one graphic that looks like a little AAA battery in the central screen with circles pushing up it. When you're regenerating, there's regenerative braking, and when you're off the throttle, it's regenerating energy as well. And little circles, like something out of Fritz Lang's Metropolis, it's just kind of up the battery. I love watching that.
Yeah.
And it has tiny...
Speaking of watching the screen while you're driving.
Because it's got such little disc brakes, because the regen does so much of the braking. The rear are drums, but they're like something off Between the Wars Auto Union race car.
Oh, wow.
There's finned aluminium drums. Really beautiful piece of engineering. There are a lot of little tricks like that. The designer who styled the car, the exterior of the car, his thumbprint is on the handle that you open the back door with, so
Is
it's
that
actually
Lawrence?
imprinted with his finger thumbprint.
Wow.
No,
Fender, okay.
another person.
Okay.
No, his name escapes me at the minute. But just little Easter eggs like that through the car as well.
Wow, that's great.
And it's not fast, like an i3 is really, whoa, this is a fast car. But it's definitely quick enough in traffic. It accelerates beautifully. And with a single reduction gear transmission, it's as smooth as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful.
And they've probably deliberately pared it back to boost the range.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. You
It's-
don't need
it's
a
light.
bullet to get around Surrey Hills.
You can feel it's light. Unfortunately, when you kick the tyres and slam the door, when you do slam the door, you get a bit of like kind of that reverberation thing. When
Yeah.
It's like Roadrunner.
it's not a massive sort of chunky kind of car, but you just find yourself in traffic going, I'm driving an electric car. This feels really good.
Yeah, right.
And when you're in front of someone on a push bike, for example, I often feel self-conscious because you're going to send some exhaust smoke their way. This car, conscious is clear.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Unlike the Ram. And we did, I took a photo last night of them parked side by side. It's quite a moment in the CarsGuide garage.
Yeah.
We should probably
Yeah,
whack
that's
that on the
true.
thing too.
Anyway, we'll have a review of that up along with the other vehicles that we're driving, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But now it's time for Muskwatch. Okay, so the big news overnight, we're recording this on a Friday, but overnight, Telstra, as in Australia's telecommunications company Telstra, their CFO, Chief Financial Officer, I believe that acronym refers to, Robin Denholm, has been named as Telstra's new chairwoman.
Tesla.
Not Telstra, Tesla.
Yeah.
So
La,
just
la, la,
you
la.
just rearrange a few letters and
Yeah.
they're the same anyway, right? So she has been named as Tesla's new chairwoman.
Right.
So she's already on the board and has only been at Telstra since October. So she's just taken on this job.
Oh.
And has
really
been
interesting as she types out her email address, eh?
Oh, I
Talk about
suppose so.
muscle memory.
Yeah.
So she's a bit of a Silicon Valley star, just digging into her background. She's worked at Toyota, so she's got automotive experience as well. So go Aussie and kind of good luck.
Yeah.
Really. I think it'll bring as an outsider, a bit of sensibleness, where the previous chairman was unpredictable, shall we say?
A bit less Howard Hughes, a bit more modern business that wants to succeed.
Who's Howard Hughes?
So, who's Howard Hughes?
There's
a whole other podcast.
And a movie and several movies, in fact.
So, also, 9 months after Elon's own Tesla Roadster, so Gen 2 Tesla Roadster, blasted off from the Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah.
So it's in space, but not in showrooms.
SpaceX has confirmed it has now cruised beyond Mars.
Wow.
So Starman is out there at the wheel of this car beyond Mars. So that's more than 289 million kilometres away. And I say, pity the warranty's only 160,000 kilometres because that thing is out of warranty now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn straight.
It's on the way.
Where's he charging it?
According to SpaceX, it's now on the way to the restaurant at the end of the universe. So that's the destination.
Is that a sci-fi movie reference that I wouldn't get?
Anyway,
Okay.
Mel. Yeah.
Sorry. Moving along. I'll read that.
Now, as
Wikipedia
always, we'll check in on Bloomberg's Model 3 production tracker. This week, it's sitting at 4,710, which is up a whole 49 units on last week. But it's the 11th week in a row where production is still under 5,000 units a week. And that was the critical kind of mass
Are you
for that
surprised,
car.
James?
I am. What I will say is this seems like a more sustainable build up to a production number rather than this big burst just to get over a figure to satisfy investors and what have you. It seems
Less
like
fake news.
It's being fine-tuned. And it is worth remembering, Elon has promised 6,000 a week by the end of this year. We're now into November, so it's got to go another 1,000 a week to live up to that claim. So
I look forward to a Christmas special.
We will keep watching with interest. But with that, I think we've reached the finish line. Thank you, Mel.
Sadly. Thank you, James.
And thank you, Matt. And thanks to our producer, Marsden. Brains aren't everything, but look, in his case, they're nothing. And thank you for listening. But let's make it a two-way street. Whatever you like, whatever you've heard or you don't like, just maybe you have an alternate point of view. Don't keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
Any fashion advice? We're all ears.
Exactly, especially for Mel. Search for CarsGuide on Facebook and Instagram and use the hashtag CGPodcast or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. You can listen to and watch us on YouTube. And if you're an iTunes devotee, please rate and review us. I hope you can join us next time. Until then, remember, project cars are great because clean fingernails, free weekends, intact knuckles, and financial security are totally overrated. See you next week.
Bye.
Was that a high five?
No.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.